stunning looks than swift.
Well, we're almost halfway through the group stage of this Men's World Cup. This is a big week, an important week for a lot of the teams. Welcome to Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket Info Match Day. I've got with me Shane Bond in studio and Urooj Mumtaz online. Guys, this is really the week. I mean, we call it Hump Day in South Africa, you know, as you get over that hill. This, I think, is probably that week, isn't it, Bondi?
Oh, I definitely think it is. I think every result now has implications for every other team, and all the other teams will be watching, knowing what's coming if they're playing each other. A team like New Zealand, who lost yesterday, has Pakistan to come. So, yes, it's getting into the crunch week. It's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, I think so. And Urooj, for Pakistan, a really, really big game this. They've beaten Afghanistan 7 out of 7 in their ODI meetings. How's this shaping up in terms of the significance of this match for their tournament as a whole?
I think it'll make or break it for Pakistan. Yes, they've got 5 games to go, but every game now becomes important, and this one even so, much more considering what Afghanistan have been able to do, especially against England. And we're on a surface which is going to obviously assist their spinners, who are quality in all 3 of them. If they're not playing for today, I'm not quite sure. We'll obviously find out. But for Pakistan, a very important game, and I think it'll have to be 2 important points today, and then look forward to what's happening in the other ones.
Yeah, make or break, it's quite a strong statement there. So before we look at the matchups, we know that the surface, Aaron Finch has told us it's among the driest that he's seen in Chennai, not a blade of grass, I think is the direct quote. Before we know who's doing what, Bondi, what does that mean in terms of the big battle lines for today's game?
I think Afghanistan would have learnt last time that they missed a trick by bowling first on that wicket. I think the toss is going to be really important. I think both teams, given the heat and the nature of the wicket, will look to bat first.
Okay, so we'll bring you a toss update as soon as we have one. But for now, let's just take a look at where the 2 teams are standing. Pakistan's remaining fixtures today against Afghanistan, and then some big matches for them. They play South Africa at the same venue, and South Africa, I mean, they play tomorrow against Bangladesh. I don't want to touch the money too soon here, but they've had a really good comeback after that game against the Netherlands. But if you look at that, Bangladesh, New Zealand, England, it's a tough road.
Oh, the road's always tough, but you would say today's game and Bangladesh are games that Pakistan would be expected to win. So all of a sudden they're on 8 points, and they've probably got to win 2 others to get in. So look, they're only 1 loss behind New Zealand. New Zealand will lose 1 game, and Pakistan are on the same amount of points. So it's closer than what you actually realise. So for me, this is a must-win game for Pakistan today. They have to win.
Yeah, and Urooj, if you looked at that remaining fixtures, would you also have identified 2 or 3 there that you would say are absolute must-wins?
Yeah, again, no disrespect to oppositions, but you'd imagine and you'd hope for Pakistan to get over Afghanistan and Bangladesh. Given the quality of cricket England is playing, obviously that's the last game of the group stage, so we're not quite sure what form England will be in at the moment. So that's another one maybe Pakistan is going to earmark. But it's 4 out of 5 games, so they can't really afford to slip up in any of the given games, if you might want to put it in quote-unquote, that the given games might be Afghanistan and Bangladesh. South Africa is playing a very good quality style of cricket, and they look a very good 360 side in all dimensions. New Zealand, again, yesterday was their first loss, but again, they sort of fly under the radar, just sort of tick off those 2 points, do their job brilliantly. So that is another one that Pakistan will look at in terms of a tough opposition. So again, like I said, 2 points today, and then look at the next ones, because Pakistan have made matters worse from themselves in these initial 4 games.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned South Africa there. What a super Saturday we had, didn't we? South Africa beating England, and then beating England again in the rugby.
The other point on that was Pakistan's net run rate. The other 3 teams at the top are so high that they're effectively a win behind. So they have to get a win above one of those 3 teams if they're going to make it. So yeah, it just means today becomes even more significant.
Yeah, just take a look at that points table. So Pakistan in negative net run rate territory, 0.456. And so not only do they have to win, but they have to win with a pretty good margin, you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pakistan will just say, look, we just have to win first and foremost, but it means there's no margin for error, really. There's a chance that they may have to win all their games to qualify.
Yeah, and then let's have a look at Afghanistan's remaining fixtures. So they've also got a pretty tough road ahead. They've got Pakistan today, then Sri Lanka, the Dutch, Australia and South Africa. So it ends on quite a tough note. Urooj, if you look at that, where do you think they can identify some potential wins?
I mean, I think from Afghanistan's point of view today, they'll be eyeing up 2 points as well. They've obviously had close ones in the past in the one-day format. They've been punching above their weight in this particular World Cup. And given the conditions today, Pakistan not being particularly very well with bowling, batting very well with the bat, Pakistan spinners struggling as well. So I'd imagine Afghanistan will fancy their chances today. The other one that they'd imagine would be the Netherlands, but they have three tough oppositions as well. But they can always derive motivation from what they did against England. They'll have to put up an exceptional performance in all three facets if they are to topple any big teams in reality.
Of course, so Afghanistan eyeing that Dutch game. But we've got news in from Chennai that Pakistan have won the toss and they're going to bat. Yes. Which, what do you reckon? I mean, Urooj is already saying, well, let's go to Urooj first. Urooj, that was a noise of surprise. I'd imagine, just given what Bondi said, extremely hot conditions and the surface. You want to put runs on the board. You can't afford to give Afghanistan the batting and then have them score 260 odd and then get stuck with their spinners come on to bowl. So I think a good toss to win for Babar. He's been reluctant to bat first in the tournament, which I feel has also been crucial in the couple of losses that we had earlier. But again, their batters will have to come to the party. They will have to reassess the target, considering it is not a 300 wicket, and that'll be something that they'll have to apply themselves, and that's something that Pakistan are good at when the surface is around the 250, 260 mark. Bondi, good decision from Babar there?
Yeah, perfect decision. I said you don't have to get 300 on the surface. Anything above 250 will be challenging. It should negate the Afghanistan spinners to some degree, because you think the pitch will deteriorate, and it allows Pakistan, also their batsmen, just to bat at their own tempo. They've been forced to chase these massive scores, which I think's taken a couple of the players out of their comfort zones. Yep. So this is a very good toss for them to win.
Okay, so while we're on the Pakistan batting now, this is a discussion that I think everybody will be super interested in from you two. Is Babar and his form. So Usman Samiuddin, our Pakistan editor, has written a few things around, the expectation around Babar. He hasn't really come to the party, a half century against India so far, but not much else. First of all, from your perspective, Bondi, how much is on him? How much do we expect he's got to come good in these next few games?
He has to if Pakistan are going to progress. So that's one thing, because he's such a great player. His record suggests that. He's one of the very, very best. I think when you look at him and Virat Kohli in their hundreds, it's similar in terms of the amount, how quickly they score them. I think the difference in this tournament, though, is when Kohli's chasing, he's getting the start from Sharma and Gill, a very fast start. So yesterday against New Zealand, he's having to come in and he has to go up 4.5, 5 runs and over. It allows him time to get in, and once he gets in, he's kicking on and very difficult to get on. Babar Azam's walking out having to chase 8.5 and over, and sort of taking him out of his comfort zone. There's no time to get in. He's having to play at a tempo probably just beyond him. So that's why batting first sort of suits him. He can bat his own tempo, and then you would expect him, once he gets in, to get those big scores.
Yeah, it's a tough little comparison you've made there. It's Babar against Kohli immediately, Urooj, we saw those numbers and we saw kind of how Babar's done recently. Let's just ask you, and maybe we'll have those numbers again. What have you seen? I mean, it seems to be getting out a little bit to off spin. Is there something you've seen in his game that looks a little bit off?
I mean, he got out to Aryan Dutt, the off spinner, in a very similar fashion, just rocked back on his back foot and muscled the ball through mid-wicket, similar in the game against Australia when he got out to Adam Zampa. The spinners have maybe troubled him in the past, especially the ones that are quicker, that slide into the into his leg stump. So that's where Rashid Khan and his googlies, which have also been an issue for Babar. I really don't think it's the batting, because we know the quality and the skill that Babar has. I really feel it's the captaincy pressure and the global mega event pressure, all that is causing him to succumb under the pressure, which is then obviously letting his batting down massively. And for me, there needs to be clarity of thought in terms of Babar Azam. That's why, like Bondi said, the couple of tosses we put the opposition in, we were chasing more than 350. The template that Pakistan plays at is very a runner ball, so anything above 300, it becomes difficult because we don't necessarily make use of power play. Our boundary hitting percentage isn't as good as other big teams who have that firepower in the batting. So that's why I feel this Babar has come into positions where it has to be sort of on the money, 7 and 8 runs and over from the get-go. But from a holistic point of view, I think it's more the captaincy pressure, and that's where clarity of thought. And just in batting, he can afford to take his time and just probably score the big runs that are expected of him, which also will entail in Pakistan getting that big total up front as well.
Yeah, Urooj, I'm really interested in what you've said about captaincy pressure. We're going to have an update on the 11s shortly, but Bondi, just to conclude that point, is there a lot of pressure? We know Pakistan have had a few issues. They had to miss their camp in the UAE. Things haven't been easy for them. Their fans are not here, etc. Is that weighing on them? Can you see it in the body language?
I think it's a great point and an understated point. I think it's, there's so much pressure on any captain in a world event, and you double that with the expectation of getting runs. It's not easy. And Pakistan always talked about as a perennial semi-finalist. They're one of the favourites. And so that pressure, particularly if you start poorly, can weigh on a batsman. I agree with Urooj. I've got no doubt in Bubba's batting quality. It's just how does he share that leadership around perhaps other members of the team so it can just take the pressure off a little bit.
Yes, so a lot resting on Babar Azam, and this would be really the game I think that he would identify to come right. Let's take a look at the 11s. We've got news from Afghanistan, which is that unfortunately Mohammad Nawaz, that is news from Pakistan, has a fever. A fever seems to have been going around there actually. So here's the Afghanistan 11, and there's a big surprise. Noor Ahmed, who, Bondi, I must say, when I said to you earlier, is he going to play? You said, no, he isn't. But he's there in the team. So they've included the extra spinner there, and I'm quite excited to see him. He really made his name in the IPL. Did you see much of him? Did you kind of get an idea of what he does?
Yep, he was a key member of Gujarat Titans making the final. He was a wicket-taking bowler. Faisal Haq Faruqi, who's generally been their strike bowler for Afghanistan's been left out. So that speaks to the conditions. I think Afghanistan are going in with 4 frontline spinners and are backing that's the best way to beat Pakistan, and they're backing their spinners, and fair play to them.
Yeah, Urooj, if you take a look at that, would Pakistan be a little bit nervous? They've chosen to bat, and they've now got to face a slew of spinners on a Chennai wicket that we've said is very dry and doesn't have any grass.
Yeah, and Pakistan do have difficulty when playing spin. I mean, it's an odd statement when you talk about Pakistan or subcontinent team, and in history we've produced quality spinners and we've been very good against playing spin. But I think barring Saud Shakil in the middle, Rizwan with his sweeps, we do struggle against spin. It's a brave, bold call from Afghanistan, and I think it'll be interesting because Pakistan have also had issues with left arm wrist spin. So that also comes into play. He's been part of the PSL, so they might have played him a little bit. But it's going to be work cut out for Pakistan. The one thing that I'd like to see is, unless it's turning square, Pakistan will have to be slightly more aggressive and come down the surface to negate spin and try and hit through the line of the ball. Again, time will tell how much it's turning, but they will have to be aggressive in their intent in terms of not letting the spin get over them, because it'll be, you'd imagine, 40 overs of spin.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a look at the Pakistan batters who have to take this aggressive approach. And I'll start at the top with Imamul Haq, and we'll get into a discussion around him after we've had a look at this 11. Any surprises there, Bondi? Is this what you expected them to put out today?
No surprises for me. I wondered whether they would go back to Shadab Khan. I thought perhaps they would stay with Nawaz, but it would be pretty tough on Osama Mir to have one game and then get dropped out. So they've gone for, again, with the wicket-taking bowlers, perhaps identify that leg spin is an area of concern for Afghanistan, and maybe with an eye to the rest of the tournament, and a game they should win. It's almost a head-to-head between Shadab and Osama. Who bowls better will probably carry on in the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, Urooj, is it the same for you? Is it that kind of audition almost?
Yeah, you'd imagine, because Shadab has only let himself down, both with ball and bat. There's no denying he's obviously Pakistan's, or probably one of the best fielders going around. So that's always a given, but you need to deliver, and he had the entire Asia Cup, the first 3 games in this World Cup. So he's let himself down, but he comes back in. I'm also hearing maybe Nawaz was probably has a bit of a fever, and also why he gets left out. But you'd imagine the leg spinners are always more of a wicket-taking ability, even from a batting perspective. That batting position at number 7, Nawaz sort of felt out of sorts with the bat against almost a lost cause in the end against Australia. Shadab better with the bat. I think a vote of confidence, and like Bondi said, it's probably a bit of a bowling, like you said, audition amongst the two, especially with the right-handers in Afghanistan, you'd imagine. And I thought, again, Osama did bowl well in patches. It'll be really tough on him because of the drop catch. You pinned down Australia's huge runs. But I thought he bowled well in patches, and he's that big, tall leg spinner. He gets good revs on the ball, so it'll be interesting to see how he bowls today as well.
Yeah, Urooj, just before you kind of conclude that point, you mentioned the fever that we know Mohammad Nawaz has come down with, and there has been some illness around the Pakistan camp. We spoke about all the pressures. Would illness be another pressure that you think is weighing on them a little bit? I mean, it can't be nice when you've got people who need to stay in their hotel rooms, for example.
Yeah, never nice. Things that are not in your control, it's unfortunate because already when you're losing, there's a lot of pressure around you. There's so many other things going against you. The last thing you want is probably having 11 or 12 to pick from. Salman Ali Agha has been unwell for a while. I think he's better now. Fakhr Zaman, apart from being unwell, is still nursing a knee injury, and now Nawaz drops out. But it's unfortunate, but it obviously hurts more when you're not obviously winning. So. But I don't think that change would have mattered today. I think Shadab playing in place of Nawaz was probably already on the cards.
Yeah, I think you get a three-skilled player, but we talked about that leadership. You've got Rizwan behind the stumps, but Shadab offers that leadership support for Babur as well, so I think it's a good move to bring him back.
Okay, so we spoke a little bit about Fakhr Zaman, who's also now dropped out of the 11 and hasn't played, I think, since the first or second game. But Imam ul Haq, let's go to the top of the order now. He's got a fantastic record against Afghanistan. From what I can see, he averages over 50, 56.2 in fact. He's also just come back to form with that 70 against Australia. Bondi, how much is on him to set the tone?
I think he's the key player for me today because he's a very good player of spin, and Afghanistan opened the bowling with spin in all their innings. So if he gets going, he's got the ability to attack Afghanistan early and put pressure back on them. And it's never easy when you've got an opening batsman who can play spin well, especially with only two fielders out. So he's a critical player. If Pakistan can get off to a good start, hold wickets in hand at the back end, they've only got one frontline seam bowler at the back end, so they may be forced to bowl spin at the death, or that's maybe the opportunity for Pakistan to really cash in at the back end of the innings as well.
Yeah, Urooj, I can hear you agreeing with that. I also just want to ask you around Imam's boundary hitting. I know he was asked a question around if Pakistan are maybe not getting enough sixes. Is that something you think he will need to target and rectify, or how do you see this innings playing out for him?
I don't think I don't think he needs to obviously try and hit those sixes to prove a point. He's a very good stroke maker. When he does get the opportunity, he might. That sixes in Pakistan have been a story for about the entire 2023 that we haven't been able to hit a six in the power play. But I don't think this is the game to make that correct. What will be important is that he will have to attack the spinners in the way he does. Now, his game is very strong when he does go down the wicket to the spinners, and he backs himself because he does like to hit straight and in the V. And that's important with the new ball skidding on. That'll be important. So if he just sticks to his game plan, like Bondi said, completely agree. Imam will have to be the key in setting that good platform. We know with Abdullah Shafiq, he will take a little bit of his time. He's very conventional in his stroke play. And the two of them will need to set up a decent platform for then Babur and Rizwan to take through and then try and look at scoring maybe 260, 270.
Yeah, so let's talk about the player that you mentioned there. That's not Babur, because I think we've gone on about him for a bit. Mohammad Rizwan, what a fantastic year he's having. He averages over 70, and he's really Pakistan's kingpin from what we've seen. If a good platform gets laid, I imagine that he could definitely take things away. And he also done a bit of a rescue job. So how important is he today? He's
a great white ball player. I mean, he averages, I think, 50 in T20 cricket. It's almost a surprise when he misses out. That's how good and consistent he is. And it doesn't surprise me that he's up amongst the top run getters. Outstanding player, controls that middle phase. And I think while he's at the crease, you always get a sense that Pakistan's in control of the game. And again, Pakistan are relying on him of getting runs, but that's the key for teams progressing late into the late stages of the tournament, is you need someone who's performing consistently that you can build in and around them.
Yeah, and where he's said to be particularly important today is against the spinners. So Afghanistan have got 4. And Urooj, if we just take a look here at Mohammad Rizwan's record against spin this year, it's an average of 96, a strike rate of 90. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
It's phenomenal. And what he does is, again, he sticks to what he does best. He's very proactive at the crease. So not only will he move down the wicket to the spinners, he also moves laterally to create his own angles. He's, again, very good with the sweep. He runs up and down the wicket very quickly. And he's not afraid to sort of stick that big foot out and hit over mid-wicket to get that big six as well. And recently, if you've noticed, he's also not afraid to go over the offside in terms of a boundary hitting option. So strong square of the wicket as he's always been. And I think he will be key in that middle order for Pakistan, for the rest of them to bat around. And that's another thing that Babar Azam can almost clarity of thought when I talk about when he comes out to bat. He's got Abdullah Shafiq, Imam ul Haq and Rizwan all scoring around him. So that just should give him that little bit of relief in terms of taking some time, because Rizwan can do the job and has been doing the job. I think that will also be important for Babar. Just come out as a batter. I know the discussion is always around Babar, it comes to that, but if Pakistan are to win and score up those 2 points in the games to come forward, is important for Babar to get into form.
Yeah, Urooj, you just mentioned a little bit about Rizwan bringing intensity and energy. I was thinking about Roelof van der Merwe, who does something similar. I mean, obviously there's no comparison there, but someone even like a Heinrich Klaassen. And I wanted to ask you about Rizwan, the person. What is it about him that brings that energy, that brings sort of the vibes? You know, can you tell us and let us in as to how he does that?
I think he's a go-getter. He wants to get stuff done himself, and he's very motivational in terms of, obviously leads the Multan Sultan side, is the PSL, so has the captaincy experience, and he's obviously had to work himself up the order. When he had Sarfaraz Ahmed, he wasn't part of the team, Mohammad Rizwan, so he's had to do the hard work. In terms of a character that he is, I mean, he is a character. We've seen that in terms of when he does bat, but it comes with wicket keeping as well, I'd imagine. When you're behind the stumps, you become almost quote unquote the captain in terms of eyes and ears of what's going on, and you always see him proactive that way. He's always got his hands moving around trying to adjust fielders himself, or if not, letting Babar Azam know what he can do better. Even with the bowling changes, we saw a couple of good decisions when Babar was off the field. He brought Shaheen Shah Afridi back into the game against Australia, who picked up a couple of wickets in that one over that he did bowl. So that way, I think it's more of who he is as a person, and that reflects in his batting, and I think he derives a lot of confidence when he scores runs. You see the game for him becoming better when he scores runs. It's slightly opposite when he doesn't have a good outing with the bat.
Yeah, for sure. Bondi, how much do you know about him?
I know a bit. I played against him in a number of A tours with New Zealand A. That's where I first saw him and thought, what a great player. He almost should be on the Pakistan team now. He turned up to Canada actually this year after a 20-hour flight, walked straight off the plane onto the field, kept brilliantly, scored 50 and did it with a smile on his face. And we lost. He beat our team, so it was like, that just shows how much he loves the game. He's always up and about, such a friendly guy and a quality player.
Yeah, I promise you I don't have a fever. I seem to just have got something caught in my throat there. Apologies, everybody. Before we look at Pakistan's bowling, and we've spoken so much about the spinners, let's take one more look at Rashid Khan. We talk about him all the time. He's got a pretty good record against Pakistan in ODIs. I mean, they haven't played much, 5 matches, 7 wickets, an economy of 4.7, and he does seem to be coming into his own at this World Cup. Are you happy with the way he's progressing?
You know what you're going to get with Rashid Khan. He's very consistent. It's how Afghanistan use him today and who they target. So Rizwan's a key one. They'll want overs of Rashid Khan against Rizwan. We saw Zampa get out Rizwan last time. So there's those matchups of where they match their spinners up and who they think they're going to get out as key. But I mean, Rashid Khan, you know what you're going to get, and if there's any turn in the wicket, he's going to be a very difficult character. And that ODI economy rate against Pakistan is a fact that they'd say, look, we've just got to get through 40 runs, 35, 40 runs, no wickets, and that gives us a very good chance of getting a good score on the board. Yeah,
and then by comparison, Urooj, Pakistan's spinners, I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that they have been disappointing and perhaps a little bit underwhelming at the tournament so far. Have you identified any areas where things are maybe just not going right for them?
I don't think there's any rocket science to it. I think it's just down to consistency, the lack of execution from Shadab in particular, because he was meant to be Pakistan's key frontline spinner. Nawaz has probably done better, even the game against Afghanistan. And Iftikhar Ahmed out of nowhere is now almost looking like he can bowl a 10-over quota as opposed to him being a part-timer. So I think Pakistan have the problem with consistency in terms of bowling of Shadab and Nawaz both. The problem with both of them was they were both not consistent, so they weren't picking up wickets, but the leaking of runs was far too much. They were both probably giving away 7 and 8 runs an over collectively, and we're not picking up wickets. That is the issue. With Naseem Shah obviously missing, Hassan Ali has done a decent job up till now, but that still left Pakistan with 20 overs to fill in. And it's been sort of blessing in disguise that Iftikhar has turned up to the party. But I think it is one game today where Pakistan can probably look for their spinners to come back to form, and Babar Azam as well, because it'll only get tough. It'll only start getting tougher from here on in. So important again, I think it's just about being consistent. Rhythm, when you're obviously bowling leg spin, is a very difficult art. But Shadab will probably have a fresh slate again today to start.
Yeah, Bondi, you want to add something there?
Yeah, I mean, it's Chinnaswamy against Australia in your first World Cup game is a pretty tough place to start for anyone, for Osama Mir, who's had a really good year in all cricket. So I'd expect him to be a handful today on the Chennai surface. I think, I mean, Afghanistan will be going, look, we know that if we can keep Pakistan to 240, the spinners are struggling a little bit. We have an opportunity, but I'd be expecting a much improved performance out of Shadab and Osama today.
Yeah, and then we've been quite critical on the spinners, but can we just take a look at the Pakistan quicks, in particular Shaheen Shah Afridi and Haris Rauf. They've taken wickets. I think Shaheen is number 4 perhaps on the wicket-taking charts, but they've been a little bit expensive, and I wonder, I mean, it feels like we're nitpicking a little bit here, but economies of 6.03 and 7.06, does that need a little bit of a look at?
Definitely. I think there's a little bit of venue stuff there. I mean, this venue you wouldn't expect is going to be a 300-plus wicket, so it'll get the confidence of these bowlers up, and there's a little bit of a blueprint for both of them at the back end against Australia, where they mix their pace on and pace off stuff brilliantly, and this is a wicket that's going to require the same thing. And I'd expect these two to actually be almost harder to score against the spinners today if they mix that pace up well.
Yeah, Urooj, from your side, anything to add around how the Pakistan quicks have done?
Yeah, I think Pakistan is almost again of a template where the need for Shaheen Shah Afridi to strike early and bowl well, and that's where the sort of momentum flows for Pakistan in terms of how the match goes. When Shaheen Shah Afridi was obviously struggling, because we see the amount of swing in India so far has been almost negligible. So what he had was trouble is in identifying the length, which has actually been the 6 to 8 meter good length mark, top of off stump kind of length, where the fast bowlers have been successful in trying to nick off or hit off stump. That's what he did in the previous game when he saw, again, the first over you'd expect him to pitch the ball up and look for that swing, but he was very good in the last game to pull the length back. He bowled his 4th over in the game, which was the 7th over of the match, maiden, and then he came back, and like Bondi said, I think Haris Rauf and Shaheen Shah Afridi in particular at the back end were exceptional. So I think Shaheen, now that he's found the length that he has to bowl here, is going to be vital. So again, with 350 plus scores, you'd imagine 7 and 8 runs an over, which is okay. But for the rhythm that they bowled at in the game in particular against Australia will give Pakistan a lot of confidence with their seam attack.
And it's not just the Pakistan pacers who've struggled a little, but Afghanistan have also had their problems. Fazal Haq Farooqi, who you mentioned and who we'll see very shortly, hasn't maybe done as well as he would have expected. I think one of the criticisms is that he searches too much for wickets. That's what I've been hearing. Is that also what you've seen?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. He can swing the ball quite a lot both ways, but he does try to bowl those miracle balls, and I think we said there hasn't been the swing. He's done a reasonably tidy job for Pakistan, but they would be looking at the surface going, there's going to be no swing there today. So it pretty much negates his biggest weapon.
And actually that's why he's not playing.
And so that's why he's not playing today.
So we're talking about all of this for absolutely no reason.
But Naveen Al-Haq has got a very good change of pace, so he'll be tough to hit on the surface. He bangs the ball in, he uses a lot of cutters. And so, yeah, the way you've got to attack Pakistan in the end of the day is with their biggest weapons, which is their spin bowlers.
Okay, and if we look at now what we think will be a score that Pakistan are looking at, and I know you said we have to put net run rate aside for now, but they are batting first. Yep. What should they be aiming for?
I think you've got to look at Afghanistan are a very poor chasing team, traditionally done it poor. I think Pakistan get anything above 250, it'll be too many. So I think they've just got to get a good base and get themselves in a position to get 250, and if they play well, that'll probably be 260 to 280.
Yeah, Urooj, would you say something similar?
Yeah, I completely agree with Bondi says, but there's a fine line in between Pakistan trying to get that 250 plus score. It sometimes happens in the middle period of the phase on slowish tracks, they sort of get bogged down and are unable to rotate strike. That'll be important. So because at the back end, you don't want to be in a position where you're 180 for say 4 in 40 overs and then looking to score those last big runs. So I think Pakistan will just have to keep up with the momentum, just play good, conventional, smart cricket. And still, again, like I said, look to score off their spinners. You can't let Rashid Khan all over you. And then if any other spinner is having a good day, that causes Pakistan, that'll give Pakistan a little bit of trouble. So anything north of 250, I think it'll be Pakistan's game.
Urooj, you just spoke about kind of the pace at which they're scoring and how they need to structure their innings. So what we've seen from some of the teams so far is that they kind of have a slight go slow in the beginning in the power play because, especially like South Africa, for example, the last 10 overs are what they focus on. Is that the blueprint you want Pakistan to follow?
You also need to understand the hard new ball is probably the best place to score, especially given the subcontinent, given the nature of the ball. And you've seen the data shows up till in these starting 4 games for all teams, scoring at the back end has been very difficult. So you need to make use of the hard new ball when the ball goes off the square faster. I just feel, and there's a difference between being smart and there's a difference between being stupidly aggressive, if I may say. That is the difference. I mean, when you see players like Quinton de Kock or Rohit Sharma play, they're very smartly aggressive. It's not just put your foot down and swipe through the line of the ball. That's where the worry is. Even if you're looking at getting north of 250, 270, whatever it is, try and make use of the power play, because again, that template of yours works when you're in that 270 bracket, 280 bracket, anything north of that, or when you're chasing, or when you're looking to score more than 320 on a flatter track, which allows you to. So even today, yes, it might be a slow turner, it might not offer that pace, it might be slightly slower off the wicket, but when you've got the boundary hitting ball, score those boundaries, because that's where Pakistan struggles. The boundary hitting percentage is not as high considering the dot balls we play.
Yeah, and 250 the average first innings score in Chennai. So you're both pretty much on the money, to use Urooj's phrase, no stupid aggression.
No stupid aggression. No stupid aggression. Yeah.
Would that be your advice to Pakistan as well, that they've really got to now find a way to pace a 50-over innings?
Yeah, but the challenge of playing in India is every ground, the size is different, the wickets are different. You've got to have an ability to be adaptable. We've seen they've come off an absolute belting flat wicket at Chennai in a tiny ground to a much bigger ground on a slow turning wicket. And it's the good teams that have the ability to adapt and adapt their game plan are the ones who find themselves in the last four.
Yeah, in a way that's what made this World Cup so interesting, is that the conditions have differed and varied, and it's required that kind of intuition from the teams. After I led us down the wrong path there with Faruqi, I have to redeem myself a bit here. So I'm going to finish off by asking you a little bit about Noor Ahmed. You mentioned that you'd seen him before. You kind of know what he's about. We haven't seen him at this World Cup yet. So is he really someone we should look at, someone that could be key in this innings?
Yep, definitely bowls flat, bowls quite fast, generally spins the ball away from the right-hander. Doesn't have a massive spinning ball back into the right-handed batsman, but again, pushing the ball across the right-hander and attacking the stumps to the left-hander at quite a quick pace. So if there's any turn there, it'll happen quickly, and he's a wicket-taking bowler.
Yeah, Urooj, have you seen much of him?
Yeah, he played a season, a couple of seasons, in fact, in the PSL, played a season for Karachi Kings and one for Quetta Gladiators. Didn't bowl much, but again, like Bondi is saying, the key for him will be the lengths that he hits, because he's quick. He won't allow pace in terms of sort of rocking back and taking your time and punching him off. So sometimes just a little bit of turn is enough to fox the batter. For Pakistan, again, that's another mystery spinner that they haven't been very... Pakistan hasn't done well against left-arm wrist spin in the past. But it'll be also pressure on Noor Ahmed. He comes into a big game, a must-win game for both sides. So for me, again, Pakistan will have to take the initiative of scoring runs. And what Bondi said was very critical. In the subcontinent with so many diverse venues, adaptability has been the key. And I think that's something that Pakistan must quickly learn to adapt to different venues. They play 2 games here, but today is probably the most diverse venue in terms of the previous ones that they've played at.
Yeah, so we've just seen Rashid Khan and Abdullah Shafiq shaking hands there, looked all very cordial as they get ready to get going. Bondi, Urooj, you guys have both said around 250, and you reckon that will be enough, do you?
I do. I think Afghanistan's record chasing has been really poor. I think the strength of the Pakistan team is still their bowling attack. I think if they get 250 plus, they'll win the game. Yeah,
Urooj, same for you?
Yeah, I think they'll probably look to get around 265, 270, but winning-wise, 250 plus should be enough for Pakistan. But again, they'll have to come out and bowl well, keep it simple, keep it in their channels. Like I said, it's 2 points here for Pakistan.
Okay, no stupidity, all simplicity. Urooj, I've got a new tagline for you there. Of course, we will be talking about Pakistan's bowling a little bit more in the mid-show. So we're getting ready to get this contest underway. Pakistan are batting first in Chennai. Remember that you can download the ESPN Cricinfo app while the match is going on, and you can use that to catch up on all the scores, the news, the views, and analysis. And we will be back with you here on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricinfo Matchday in the innings break. Until then, enjoy the game.
Stunning look.